Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to GSL-English, but specifically, welcome back to the GSL-English podcast. Now, as this podcast goes out, if the technical world and the universe has worked with me right now, it should be Sunday at 10 a.m. So if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, hello, thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, which I imagine you have done so because you are amazing. If you are listening to the podcast today, I give you an audio wave. You can't see me, but I am waving at you, I promise. And if by any chance you have stumbled across this video because it was suggested to you, and you have no idea what is going on, you're just seeing a British man with glasses talk to you, then let me just explain what this podcast is about and who it's for. So, this is a podcast for you to listen to basically a British guy natter on in the English language. I'm going to be honest, that's essentially what it is. But I speak about things with the aim of helping you to improve your English. And we talk about a variety of different topics. We look at some vocabulary. We talk about things that are on my mind. Eventually, if this gets enough attention, I would like to have guests and talk about what's on their mind. But we're not there yet. We have to start slowly. You have to start from the beginning. Rome wasn't built in a day. So, at the moment, I just talk about what's on my mind. It's an incredible podcast. Some have said that it's life-changing. That's not true. My mum said it was life-changing. But I'm proud of it. So we'll see how it goes. So what are we going to talk about in today's podcast? Well, I'm going to start off by giving you a word of the week. Fantastic word this week. Secondly, I'm going to give you a bit of a summary about myself because a few people have asked me recently as I've started to just get a few subscribers on YouTube. Who on earth are you, Gideon? Who are you that is flooding my YouTube time with English content? So that's what I'm going to do today. Just give you a bit of a background about me and kind of how I fell into teaching, which is true. I did fall into teaching. Quite an interesting story. We are then going to talk about fish and chips, one of my favourite meals. I'm going to talk about fish and chips and where it came from. Quite interesting. And then finally, I'm going to have a chat to you about something really important if you are looking to improve your fluency. And that is rhythm. We're going to look at why rhythm is essential when speaking in English, or really with any language, but also how we can do it, how we can speak it with rhythm. So as always, this is new to me, so I don't know how long this podcast is going to be. I aim for an hour, but it always seems to be under. So we're going to see how we go today. Please sit back, relax, grab a cup of tea. If you are listening to this and driving, make sure you stay focused on the roads. Switch off from the normalities of life. And as we learn English, we can just relax and unwind together. And you've noticed that I have picked up my microphone if you were watching. So that shows how relaxed I am. It's not in its stand. I am holding the microphone. That shows how chilled this podcast is. So there you go. As we get into it, if you've got any questions as we go through, chuck them in the comments. Anything you would like me to talk about next week, let me know in the comments and I will do. Now, as we go through, you will see that I look to my left. It's because all of my notes are here. Okay, so I try not to as much as possible, but there we go. It's not really scripted. As you know, these podcasts, I just have some pointers. So that way you can just hear natural and real English. And if there's any words I use or any expressions I use that you aren't familiar with, let me know in the comments and I will answer to every single one of you, which is probably about 200, 300 people. So if you can share this with your friends. But anyway, I digress. Let's get into it with our word of the week. I would like a jingle or some music to come after that, but it hasn't yet. So I'm going to do it with my mouth. So here we go with word of the week. Doodly doodly bum. Gobbledygook. Gobbledygook. I'm going to say that one more time. Gobbledygook. And you can see it up on the screen if you are watching on YouTube. What is gobbledygook? Not only is it an incredibly fun word to say, the meaning is language, especially used in official letters, forms and statements that seems difficult or to mean nothing because you do not understand it. So when somebody or something appears to be speaking in gobbledygook, it is written in gobbledygook, it means that we completely do not understand it. And we can expand this definition to even talk, about children or babies. Sometimes when they're learning to talk, the words that come out are unstructured. It's complete gobbledygook. It's nonsensical. We don't understand it. Or we could, as an adult, maybe we, as we see in the example here, maybe we get a new computer, we open the manual, and to us it's complete gobbledygook because we simply don't understand it. A fantastic word. Absolutely brilliant word. Gobbledygook. Just when we don't understand something or somebody is talking and it's completely nonsensical. Okay, I challenge you to use that word over the next week. If you can use that word, my hat goes off to you. I'll give you a scenario. Maybe a family member is talking, they're going on. Either you don't want to listen or you don't understand. You could say, you are talking absolute gobbledygook. Just an example. So please, your homework, use that word over the next week or so. Okay, that is the end of vocabulary of the week. The next part of this podcast is, I don't really like to talk about myself, but I've had a few people ask about my story or how I got into teaching or why am I a teacher. So I thought I could just give you a very brief summary of how I ended up here on YouTube. And it might not be what you expect. So I grew up, we're going all the way back. I don't know where that came from. We are going all the way back. I was supposed to just start from where my secular work started, but we were going all the way back. So I grew up in a little village in England called Fulham. It's in Kent. So probably about 30 minutes from London. Real quintessential English life. And by quintessential English life, I mean typical. What you would expect. I had a great upbringing, brilliant parents, good family. We had just a little cottage, garden, a green out the front that I would play football on with my friends and ride a bike. We had a pub a couple of doors down, post office, fire in the living room. It was that real quintessential English life. So that was where I kind of grew up. And I went to school. My secondary school was in a village called Mepham, which is where I am now. It's about 15 minutes away. I liked school. Wasn't that good. I was never good at taking exams. That was my problem at school. So I tried hard. I mucked around a little bit, but I tried hard. But my problem was I was never good at exams. So I didn't actually do amazingly well in my GCSEs, which at the time was kind of your final exams leaving school, because I used to find them really stressful. I wasn't good in that environment. So I left school when I was, I think, 15. As soon as I could leave school, I did. And I got my first job. I started working in a sandwich bar. And the sandwich bar was called Munches and Bunches. I had a great time there. I started off just by washing dishes, just doing all of that work. Slowly worked my way up to actually creating sandwiches for people, which for a 15-year-old lad was amazing. I wasn't getting paid a lot. I think I was on like maximum £10 a week or something like that. But yeah, that was the idea. And I worked my way up. I worked my way up to making the sandwiches, taking the money, opening and closing. And I loved that job. But there was a little bit of confusion with that job. And I'm not going to go into detail, but there was a confusion over what I was allowed to take as an employee. Someone told me I could take a chocolate milkshake every day, which I did. Confusion. I ended up actually getting fired from that job. I got fired from that job. No hard feelings, but it was just a misunderstanding. I got fired from the sandwich bar. And at this time, my brother and my father were in construction, building. So I got into building with them. And I did that for a long time. So this was probably from when I was about 16 now, up until I was maybe 25. I was in building. Fitting kitchens, decorating, brickwork, full builder. I absolutely loved it. Started off labouring, which, when you're labouring is mixing concrete, doing all the dirty work, but you learn a lot. And then, I started fitting kitchens. There's a little bit of fluff coming down on my camera. I don't know if you just saw that. Yeah. For audio viewers, that must be really annoying, but a little bit of fluff came down. And I was worried about there was a mark on the camera, but it wasn't. But I get back to it. I started off building with my brother and my father. We did quite well from that, and I really enjoyed it. And from there, I realised that I love being outside. So I started gardening, landscaping, and actually built up my own little company, which funnily enough was called GSL Services. And I did garden and exterior maintenance, which I really enjoyed. I built that up. And that was a great little. I loved being outside. It was hard work, but I liked that. And then a few changes in my life. I actually ended up selling that company, and I travelled. And that is when my teaching journey kind of started, because I met my wife in a country called the Dominican Republic. Kind of just enjoyed life for a while. And then once we got married, after we got to know each other, I needed a job. So I started teaching, just with a little company. And I really enjoyed it. I was teaching kids, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought, this is really interesting. At that time, it was just a bit of a crossover, but I kind of thought, wow, I really am enjoying this. And then I started working with another company. And I realised that, not to blow my own trumpet or to make myself sound better, but I realised I was actually quite good at it. I was never that confident in construction, but with this I thought, I'm actually quite a good teacher. People were responding. So I did that for a while, and then the company that I was working with went under, which means that they were no longer providing those services. So I lost my job. And I thought, well, I do really enjoy this, but I don't really want to work for other people. So I started my own company, which at that time was just an Instagram page called GSL-English, which is my full name, Gideon Stuart Lum. Gideon Stuart Lum English. And I started that Instagram page. And very quickly, it started to get traction. And I don't know why, because the content wasn't great, but people just seemed to like it. And I started to get requests for private classes about this, about that, business English. And it just went from there. And I think within 2 years, I was so fortunate that I got about 100,000 followers on Instagram. And then just recently I'm up to, about just over 165,000. So that is where most of my work comes from now. Just private classes through Instagram. And then I had people asking me all the time, do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have a YouTube channel? Which was always no, because I didn't know what to record. And I didn't think people would really be interested in my content at all. But I thought, you know what? 2 months ago, I'll start it. So in September, I posted my actual first official YouTube video. It wasn't that great. And in 2 months, it's built up quite nicely. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm nowhere near the point that, it needs to be to get anything back from this. But at the moment, I'm just really enjoying it. So I think I'm 3,600 subscribers. It's minimal compared to others, but it's growing. And I'm really enjoying it. So I'm kind of at this point where I love my work. I love teaching. I love creating content. Eventually, my goal is to hopefully be able to monetize this content, and I can keep doing it. So tell all your friends about it. But yeah, so that was kind of a really long story about how I got here. Just to, you don't always kind of know where people have come from or their story, but I fell into teaching. It wasn't a choice, but I absolutely loved it. Oh, and just as a note, in between that time of starting my own company, I got my bachelor's degree in the principles and methods of language education. I think that's what it was. It went down well. I remembered a lot. The principles and methods of language education. So I got my bachelor's degree and kind of committed to this teaching life. And I really like it. So there you go. A little bit of history about me and how I ended up here. So if you are enjoying the content, I do appreciate it. And yeah, I do these podcasts for you. So always Get in touch if you want me to answer any questions, anything you'd like me to talk about in the next one. I shall. Okay, very good. Now, we are going to take a swift right turn into another topic. Fish and chips. I cannot tell you how much I get asked the question. I'm just going to there we go. How much I get asked the question, have you eaten fish and chips this week? Do you like fish and chips? So I thought, I'll talk about it in the podcast. And the answer is yes. I absolutely love fish and chips. There's my local chippy, which is what we call a fish and chip shop, a chippy down the road. Absolutely fantastic. It's called the Cod Father. Very clever. The name of the fish is cod, Codfather. Not Godfather, Cod Father. So hats off to them, and they do a brilliant battered fish and chips. So normally at a chippy, I would say you don't want a chippy that looks perfect. And what I mean by that, if you come to England and you're trying to find good... Oh, I had a horrible thought then, guys, that my microphone wasn't switched on. I've done that before, but it is switched on. Carry on. If you come to England and you're looking to have some fish and chips, one thing I highly recommend is don't go to a perfect looking fish and chip shop, because generally they're rubbish. Generally they're not the best. You want a fish and chip shop that looks a little bit greasy. It looks like it's been there for a while, and it looks like they know what they're doing. Doesn't look perfect inside by any means. Those are the ones that do the best fish and chips. So that's one thing I would recommend. If you're looking for a decent chippy in England, don't go for the perfect ones, or even better, ask a local. What's the best chippy around here? So the question that I got thinking was, whose idea was it to put fish and chips together? Who made the suggestion, you know what we should do? We should put fish and chips together. So I'm going to read you this little article. When did this match made in heaven happen? Now, a match made in heaven is just a perfect match. It was like it was heavenly. Couldn't have been any better, which fish and chips going together is certainly as a match made in heaven. So, I'm going to read this, then we're going to talk about it. So, the real question is, where do fish and chips come from? And it's not an easy one to answer. However, it's fair to say that these two beloved foods finally became the perfect meal together in England, although no one quite knows where the first fish and chip shop was. One account says that the first fish and chip shop in the north of England was opened by Mr. Lees in 1863 in Mossley, near Oldham, Lancashire. In London, the first fish and chip shop is said to be Joseph Marlin's, a Jewish immigrant, in Cleveland Way in the 1860s. I love this last paragraph. It's like an ode to whoever did it. Whoever did it first, we are eternally grateful. And it certainly has put its mark in UK history and is now fully appreciated as a nutritious combination. Fish and chip shops became so popular in the 1920s and 30s that there were an amazing 35,000 chippies, often running out of the front rooms of people's homes. And some even had doormen to control the crowds. In World War II, it was the only food not to be rationed. And today, around 10,500 chippies serve up 360 million meals of fish and chips each year. That's 6 to every man, woman and child in Britain. There you go. How interesting is that? So nobody actually knows where it started. I would love to just have 5 minutes with the man that said, you know what we need to do? We need to put battered fish with chips and it's going to be perfect. But as it said, we are eternally grateful. And by eternally grateful, it means that we can never truly say thank you enough. So it's really always been a staple, or for a long time, it's been a staple of British culture. Now, there's arguments to how you have your chips. For me, I like them covered in vinegar. I don't like salt on my chips. Covered in vinegar, bit of lemon on the fish, tomato ketchup on the side. And the real point of controversy is I like mushy peas, which is basically peas that are mushed together like mashed potato. So please, Let me know in the comments. Have you had fish and chips before? Did you like it? If not, why didn't you like it? And how do you have your chips? Vinegar, salt, ketchup, or just plain? Let me know. So there you go. Fish and chips. As a reminder, if you want a good chippy, basically, wherever you are in England, ask a local. Ask somebody walking down the street, where is the best chippy round here? And I'm sure they will tell you. If not, just find the dirtiest looking place, and generally they're the best. Very good. Okay, so now we're going to move on. And I wanted to present an idea to you. Because in English, we all want to be fluent, don't we? We are looking for fluency. We're not looking for perfection, which I kind of raised in a video recently. You know, the idea of chasing perfection with English is foolish. It's a pointless task. It really doesn't get us anywhere. It's a negative way of thinking, and we want to kind of get hold of that and stop that if we can. But what everybody wants is fluency. And we're always trying to find ways to be more fluent. And there's an idea that I really wanted to present today. It's kind of a bit of a change in thinking that I think will really help you with your fluency. I present it to a lot of my students and we work on it. So before we do, I just kind of want to talk about music for a while. Now, I'm a big music lover. I love everything from jazz to blues to rock to pop. You know, anyone that knows me knows I love music. I guess guitars on the wall are kind of a given. But what would music be without rhythm? Rhythm is everything, isn't it, when it comes to music? Every song has its own beat, has its own rhythm, and sometimes the rhythm, the tempo changes. It goes up, it goes down, the volume goes up and goes down, and rhythm is everything. And rhythm is what makes music exciting, is what makes it a great experience. If we didn't have rhythm, music would be dead. I want us to apply that idea of rhythm when we are speaking. So I'm going to present some ideas to you today. Just a thought process of maybe if you're looking to be fluent, perhaps we could focus on fluency. Perhaps that's something that we could work on instead of just thinking about speaking perfect English or using perfect pronunciation. But incorporating rhythm into our English, it really helps us to sound more natural, more confident, and it makes our English more engaging. Now, once again, I'm not saying that you have to speak with perfect rhythm or speak perfectly, but it really does help. So let's dive in and let's discover why and how to speak English with rhythm. Rhythm is the heartbeat of any language. And a lot of languages have their own rhythm. French has its own rhythm. Portuguese does. Italian does. It's their own rhythm. And it's often that rhythm that helps us to identify the language. And it adds a musical quality. It adds a musical element to our speech. It makes it more captivating. And as we said before, it makes it more engaging. But one of the key reasons that we should try and speak with rhythm is it helps us to improve our natural fluency. And what do we mean by natural fluency? Well, basically, when I say natural fluency, I mean that it isn't forced. Because, you know, you can speak with forced fluency, which is just imitation. But that is really tiring and that is really difficult to keep up. We want to speak with a natural fluency. And rhythm helps us do that because we all have our own rhythm. When I speak, I do have my own rhythm. I have my own points that I raise my voice, that I speed up, that I slow down. My voice is a certain tone. It is a certain octave. You will be the same. You have your own rhythm. Some people just naturally speak at a slower pace. Nothing wrong with that. Some people speak at a fast pace. Nothing wrong with that. Some people have a high voice, a low voice. But whatever it is, we all have our own rhythm. If you can find your rhythm that you speak English and go with that, oh my goodness, it makes you sound more fluent. For example, I'm going to give you a sentence. I'm going to read it first with no rhythm. And this is just so you can kind of hear what I'm talking about. I went to the store yesterday. I went to the store. Okay, actually, that was a bit overemphasized. Let's make it more real. I went to the store yesterday. There's no rhythm there. I went to the store yesterday. Technically, pronunciation is good. Every word is perfect. But there's no rhythm. You are not engaged with that sentence at all. It sounds robotic. And that's the problem. It might be perfect. The pronunciation might be perfect. I went to the store yesterday. But there's no rhythm. It's not engaging at all. It's not captivating at all. But now let's add a bit of rhythm. I went to the store yesterday. I went to the store yesterday. Can you hear that? I went to the store yesterday. Dubbity bum dibbity. Dubbity bum dibbity. Rather than just bum 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 bum. It just adds something, doesn't it? It adds rhythm. It sounds more fluent and it sounds more native-like. Now, somebody else will read that sentence and they'll have their own natural rhythm. But it adds something to our... I've just had an email come through and that really threw me off. Very unprofessional. Let me just silence my laptop there. So we're going to kind of focus on that. I want you to find your own rhythm because it adds something. It makes the language quite immersive. And also, once we start speaking with our own natural rhythm, it helps us to emphasize key points. It helps us to emphasize the main point we are trying to put across. And it helps us to convey emotion. For example, when we are excited, for example, when we are excited, we often speak quite fast and the rhythm increases. When we are feeling sad or emotional or we're trying to convey comfort, our voice slows down and maybe the tone of our voice goes down. But that is all to do with rhythm. If we think of a fun, upbeat song, it's fast, it's going. But if we think of a sad, somber song, it has a different rhythm to it. So when we speak with rhythm, it helps us to really put across the emotion that we want to convey. And in turn, the ones that we are talking to, our listeners, are far more engaged in what we are saying. For example, let's imagine that we are telling a story about an exciting adventure we recently had. Maybe we went on holiday. I'm going to read you a sentence. We climbed to the top of the mountain and saw the breathtaking view. We climbed to the top of the mountain and saw the breathtaking view. Pronunciation's good. Yeah. But it's tedious English. Again, this is why, perfect English. We don't want perfect pronunciation. We want emotion. We want to captivate our listener. So let's try that sentence with rhythm. We climbed to the top of the mountain and saw the breathtaking view. We climbed to the top of the mountain and saw the breathtaking view. Dee-dum, be-dabba-dee-bum-bum, be-bee-bum-bum-bum. If you get what I mean, there's rhythm to it. We climbed to the top of the mountain. We climbed to the top of the mountain. Adding that rhythm makes such a difference. So I want you to try that. Take a bit of text and try and read it with rhythm. Try different things out. Try emphasizing different words, speeding up at different points. But speaking with rhythm is what makes us sound fluent and natural. So a little ways that we can, that we can practice this, some ways that we can start. Firstly, listen and imitate. So I know we're trying to find our own natural rhythm, but initially, listen and imitate. Start by listening to native English speakers, such as podcasts like you are listening now, and repeat. Just listen carefully. Even their rhythm. Just listen carefully. There's rhythm to that. Listen to songs, movies. Pay close attention to the intonation, the stress, the rhythm, and practice imitating the speech patterns. And if we do this, it will just kind of ingrain and internalize this idea of rhythm, and it will allow us to speak with our natural flow. That is the first thing I would recommend is listen carefully and imitate. The more we do this, we will develop our own natural flow and rhythm. And the second point I wanted you to think about is work on stress on keywords. English is a stress-timed language, which means that certain words within a sentence are emphasized more than others. So when you're reading or writing or you're trying to improve that, identify the content words. So nouns, verbs, adjectives. What word do you want to highlight and stress that word? For example, I'm going to the store. There's no stress there. I'm going to the store. There's no stress. I'm going to the store. I'm going to the store. And that can be in response to a question, where are you going? I'm going to the store. It adds that emotion, doesn't it? And it helps us to speak with rhythm. It helps us to put across that rhythm. I'm going to the store. Ba-da-dum, doobity-boom. And it just helps us to increase that rhythmic English and that flow. And that is exactly what we are trying to do. And we can do this with stress patterns, not just word stress. For example, let's take this sentence. I didn't say he stole the money. There's no stress there. I didn't say he stole the money. Now let's change the word stress. I didn't say he stole the money. I didn't say he stole the money. The emphasis is on he. That's the point that we're focusing on. But now I'm going to change it. I didn't say he stole the money. I didn't say he stole the money. Now the emphasis is on what did he do. So you see, the word stress makes a big difference to the points that we want to emphasize, but also it helps us to speak with flow and rhythm. I didn't say he stole the money, but did he bumpy bow bunny? It adds that rhythm. So that is a point that I wanted to put across and just kind of present to you. If you're trying to improve your fluency, try improving your rhythm and flow. Try and speak with rhythm. You can even click along as you're talking, but try and get that emotion to come across, because as we do, it will really help us to speak with fluency. So I highly recommend that. I hope that made sense. If you've got any questions about it, please, as always, just let me know in the comments. Let me know on Instagram at GSL_English, and I will always respond. Okay, so any comments on this podcast, I will respond to. But there you go. So, the podcast was 36 minutes. No, it's probably going to be under that because I'm going to have to edit some parts that you don't know about that I messed up in. So yeah, it's probably going to be about 30 minutes, this podcast. But I do hope you enjoyed it. And as I say, the idea of these podcasts is just for you to have an opportunity to listen to the English language be spoken naturally. I'll always try and present some new ideas, new vocabulary, whatever it is. So if you would like me to keep going with this, please let me know. I'm new to this whole thing. It's all new to me, but I'm loving the journey and I really hope I can keep going with it. So give this a thumbs up, share it with all your friends and family, subscribe to my channel. It really does help me out. So once again, if there's anything you'd like me to talk about next time, let me know in the comments. But I really do appreciate your support. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I'll see you all very soon. Have a good one, guys.